Hello, Hare Krishna. This is Jvalamukhi Dasi again with the J File series. This is number 23. It's been a while since I've been able to get back to them. I've had a lot of construction going on and guests and kids and the never-ending process of healing. So thank you for your patience and your comments, kind and unkind. They help me come closer to, I guess, my service. Thank you again for your really all the love I've been getting online. I really appreciate. Thank you for seeing me. This next one is not an easy one. Most of them in the J-File series are not easy because it's healing from the worst of the worst. And I'm sharing them because we joined this movement to go back home, back to Godhead. We want what Srila Prabhupada offered us. We want Krishna. We want the real thing. We don't want to be cheated. This J-File series is my diary. It's my journal of coming round right, of finding out why I've been so dysfunctional in my life and why I haven't been able to get to the service that I want to do, how the entire movement has been crippled in so many ways. And this process of discovery has shown the reason why, because we were attacked from the inside. We're occupied by agents of the Great Sinister Movement that Srila Prabhupada called them. So this next entry, which was recorded in August of 2011, describes another murder. It's a heavy trigger warning here. If you think you may have repressed memory or PTSD, don't watch this one, please. It's hard. This one is hard. My dear friend tells me always that in the Vedic culture, when you watch a drama or a performance, the heart is always taken care of in the Vedic culture. So if something hard is coming, they'll tell you something hard is coming, and then they will uplift your heart at the end. So I'm going to try to do that with this one. This one describes a really heavy scene. And at the end, I will speak to what I have seen so far of Krishna's plan about why this was allowed to happen and such. All right, here we go. J-File series number 23. Trigger warning. What I am about to describe is murder in cold blood. It may trigger you if you also have repressed memories. Please get help immediately if you start to feel suicidal. Don't act on it. It is trauma-based mind control and programming. If you wonder why so many second generation and first generation, but a lot of second generation have killed themselves, it's because there's programming that's put in that if you start to remember what happened, you will kill yourself. And that's what happens. Really strong emotions come up. The intelligence becomes completely clouded. And there go I, except for the grace of God and my dear support system. All right, here we are. The body count is up to 5 now. The crystal wands were going over my body in the silence. I started to have convulsions in my abdomen, so forceful that I sat up. I was laughing because it seemed comical how my body was talking on its own. It seemed comical how my body was taking on its own life without my conscious direction. It was like an instrument that played itself. I was just the witness, observing it. The memory was slow to rise to the surface. Only when I allowed my body to mimic the movements and sounds I was seeing inside did it come out. I heard a droning, a humming kind of chant. The movements were very primal, like Native American dancing. Because I kept disassociating and stopping the flow around the clenching in my stomach, my teacher Mahaprabhu engaged and encouraged me to make the sounds that I was hearing. I told her I didn't want to do what, quote, they were doing. She said, what were they doing? I showed her by rocking back and forth with outstretched arms and doing the drone, doing the humming. There was the very distinct feeling of a sharp blade being stabbed into my intestines. It was triangular and very ornamental. I became aware of the crescendo of the dancing and droning. She asked me, "From what vantage point are you seeing all of this?" I replied, "I do not see anything. I do not want to see anything." I was witnessing, but did not want to. I knew that I had to see it if I was to release the covering layers. I said a prayer to the Lord. I took a deep breath and tried to get in control of my body that was twisting away to avoid seeing. I made my choice, and with determination, I flopped back down on the session table. I will see. I feel disgusted with this whole topic and just want to go back to sleep. My boys are making their independence known. They will be sleep no more. Anyway, long story short, I and a few others were in cages on the side of the basement at Grandma's house. I saw them stab a little girl named Betty. They said that she was lying Betty. She was lying, and this was her punishment. If we ever lied or told, they would do the same to us. On Kamra's table, I was screaming and shaking, holding up my hands and crying, "No, no, no, no." And then I saw an image of the all-seeing eye on the hand with a half hand holding on to it. It was sort of like this. It was a piece of finely made jewelry. The main hand was brilliant silver covered in tiny cut rubies, and the other hand holding it was gold with bluish turquoise stones. I said, "Oh, oh, oh, this is not good at all. What is that? What is that?" I described it as a piece of jewelry, a ring. Kamra asked me, "Who does it belong to?" I got a huge rush and shouted, and then I disassociated. She said, "On the count of 3, you will see the face of the person wearing the ring." Fear shot through me, and I did not want to see again. Again, she counted down to 3, and I saw the arm and bare shoulder of a man who was wearing the ring. It was not the long, hairy arm of my grandfather, but rather reddish, thick skin, a shorter-limbed person. His name screamed through my mind. I will call him Beast. I did not speak his name. Kamra said something like, "Oh shit." And she doesn't swear. I did not speak his name, but she knew. Then another name kept pushing itself to the surface. "Rachel, Rachel, Rachel." But who was that? I didn't know. Then another name, her mother's name, came to me. Again. Long story short, skipping all the fear, disassociation, and writhing body memories with screams and dry heaves, this is what I saw. I knew that this Rachel was raped and murdered. I said hopefully to Kamra, maybe she wasn't real. Kamra calmly asked, "How old was this not real person?" "She was between the ages of 8 and 12, I said. "I saw her and her mother in the living quarters, the previous women's ashram or Grihastha family area in the Fisher Mansion, the new Devasadan Mandir in Detroit. It was right above the Prasadam Hall. The Fisher Mansion garage was what that used to be for. It was next to the office and the pujari room. The back quarters were the spiral staircases. There was a feeling of foreboding. They were coming for her. Beast, the guru, had ordered it. There were a handful of at least 3 or 5 stupid, indoctrinated, don't question so-called devotee women who stood aside, and those that helped take Rachel away. Her mother started screaming and screaming and screaming. Her hands were tied behind her back. and a pillowcase was put over her head. She knew that they were going to kill her daughter. They took Rachel to the back balcony above the Didi room, the one that overlooked the canal. She was made to stand on the edge of the railing. The understanding was that Rachel was representing Maya, and that, quote, needful needed to be done, for Srila Prabhupada, of course. It makes me sick just to write this, but this is how perverse and sick their understanding was. Apparently, Rachel had been raped by Beast just to show his dominance, although he prefers homosex. She had also been raped by others in the group. And she had told her mother, who was planning to go to the outsiders, the authorities, to report it. This was to be stopped at all costs. Together, they pushed her off the balcony to her death. I did not see if she hit the ground or drowned in the canal water. Her mother was still screaming uncontrollably in the ashram. The group, forgot to write this part, but at the time, our family lived in a very small little space, like most devotees did in that time. We all lived in the temple, so we always had to find some place to live. And if you're a family, that's a hard thing to do because there's not much space in the building. So we were living in a very, very small, almost closet-like area. And I remember being stuffed in the back of that little closet area with myself and one of my siblings, and just the fear and the terror of hearing all of that racket outside the door, knowing that the door could swing open at any moment, and that could have been me or my family members. I was reliving the terror of that. It's funny, sometimes I think, God, I wish I was nuts and I was making all this up. I wish that these memories were the phantasmagoria of a sick mind. And I thought, well, maybe I should just express this on the video. But then I'm brushing my teeth, getting ready to record this video finally after so many months of not recording. And I'm thinking these thoughts. And then I start shivering and shaking inside, like cold that you can't get warm from. And I'm like, okay, I know better. The body can't lie. It can't lie. You can cover it up and you can try to explain it away or medicate things, but people say you have no proof, but the body is proof. If you're honest, that is. All right. Rachel's mother was still screaming uncontrollably up in the ashram. The group and Beast then took her mother down to the boat canal, where the refrigerators were kept. Beast had a black gun. He and his group forced her down the first step of the ladder leading into the water. She was still tied up with the pillowcase over her head. The group said some kind of mantra, supposedly for her, quote, auspicious death. Super, super, super sick, sick, sick. And then someone, Beast likely, pulled the trigger into her head. Her body must still be down there somewhere. The canal was drained and made into another structure. I don't know what they did with her body or if it had been decomposed enough by then, but I know it was definitely not the only body down there. I was wondering if they found anything when they drained it about 10 to 15 years later to make the Srinathji Hall out of it. I remember always being petrified of going in there into the canal. There were refrigerators and like bogus storage there because it was cold all the time. And sometimes to get from the Prasadam Hall to the temple room area, you could take a shortcut. Instead of going all the way outside, you could go through the boat canal around the corner, and I remember always being like, all of us kids were like, ah, we would dare each other, and it was terrifying. Another named something like Arjit or Ranjit or something like that kept coming up. He was tall and one of our most gentle abusers, but he genuinely cared about us also. He wanted to protect us from being hurt, or so he said. And he counseled us to keep quiet under all circumstances, or something bad would happen to us. I was about to have more process around him, but I had to go use the restroom. On one of my restroom visits, I had to crawl on hands and knees because my legs would not support me. I saw my mother in our room in the temple, which was right there with all the other Grihastha householders in women's rooms. She had me and my sibling in the closet with her, trying to cover our ears and desperately pretend that this was not happening. Dad came in after that feeling really, really angry, raging. We were still cowering in the closet. He used a bunch of cuss words about the leaders and said that we were moving right away. I guess that is when we moved to Los Angeles. From the frying pot to the kettle and back. Beast and my dad's energy were very similar in their hard limbs, their deep denial, rage and violence, and of course, arrogance. The main difference I see was that my father also had a genuine caring side that wanted to do the right thing. His alter personalities were all the negative stuff. But underneath it all, he is a devotee of Krishna. I'll take a moment here and just speak about my perceptions of the devotee and the demon in the same body. It's really incomprehensible to someone who hasn't experienced severe abuse to think that somebody who's capable of such horrendous trespasses on a child or anyone could have any good to them. But it's not like that, really, because every single soul is part and parcel of Krishna. We are his expansions. I literally read that in one of Srila Prabhupada's purports not too long ago. And so what happens here in the material world is that we get covered by the modes of material nature, and the filters come in front of our eyes. And when you get raised with severe trauma, unless you take a very, very hard and deep look at yourself constantly, those patterns rule you. They come out of you, and you disassociate, and then some other aspect of consciousness comes forward. And in the case of multi-generational abuse, especially satanic abuse, the coverings aren't just split personalities or younger child parts that haven't integrated. They're demons, literally demonic entities that were summoned into your body by your well-wishers, the people who wanted to make you powerful, through their sick, perverted religion and the mode of ignorance. And so when you disassociate, when you stop being in control of your body and you let those things act out through you, you are a demon, because that demon is in your body and it's using your physical vehicle like a puppet. And then you revert back and you're this scared, amazing person still, and you don't really even have recall of what happened, because you weren't even, you were like asleep in the back seat while that driver was just crashing your vehicle. And there's definitely guilt and shame and like, oh no, and those aspects were all present there too. So I want you to understand this, because nobody can do these horrible things if they haven't themselves first been victimized as a child and growing up with it. They don't know how to cast out their demons and walk in this path, because it's an extremely hard walk. You have to really embrace the walk of Jesus, so to speak, to get out of this. The tricks are guilt and shame and horrendous fear. And fear is the first emotion, that soft emotion, and we cover it. It's easier to be angry. It's easier to blame. It's easier to act out than to feel your own hurt. And so that's where he was. That's where he was. And I still pray that he will somehow in some life be able to actually embrace devotional service and let go of all of the stuff in his heart. The main hook in our heart, of course, is envy of Krishna and fear of our own personhood. Satanism is obviously not personalism. It's ultimate impersonalism, because the way they think about everything is it's all one, and they can justify, it's really a sick, twisted, perverted idea, but they justify killing others because we're all one and it's just killing a part of yourself. They don't actually see separate individuality. And so in that way, they do some very strange mental gymnastics to justify what they're doing, and they think it's for the ultimate benefit of everyone, crazy. Anyhow, here we are. All right. Where did we leave off? Okay. Beast is a reptile with tilak. I don't know if he's actually a reptilian, but he's definitely a Rakshasa type asura. He is a demon with tilak who happened to implant his poisonous presence in the Hare Krishna movement. He was the one recorded snickering on the quote poison tape, the one who colluded with others to poison his divine grace. If he has any advancement in true understanding, it is very, very small and quite perverse, dangerously twisted. He and my father were sexual with each other, but Dad was deeply in denial about his other alter personalities and their exploits. Funny, I heard that Beast and Keith the Cape, aka Kirtananda, were lovers when they first came to the movement. Knowing what I know now, I would not doubt it. A pair of gargoyles in disguise, straight from hell to do the Dark Lord's bidding. Srila Prabhupada was so kind. He was always in the mood of Patita Pavana, savior of the most fallen, Lord Nityananda, who gave out mercy indiscriminately. He even gave these dangerous, vicious demons a chance to take to Krishna consciousness. And it would have worked too if they would have accepted. Too bad for the rest of us that they chose to remain demons and keep Vaishnava clothing. And we were so incredibly foolish and innocent and immature that we let them totally F us up while we bowed to them. And we are still bowing. We are beaten down and wanted and warned not to offend the pure devotees or those who protect the pedophiles. And this is still going on. Ha, capital H-A exclamation point. Srila Prabhupada also warned us numerous times that there were demons in devotee dress and that we must find them and root them out. He was extremely merciful, but not blind, not fooled by the dangerous predators that became many of his first sannyasis, gurus, and then later misdirected the whole movement through their perverse, quote, preaching. The disastrous results of which are the state of the second generation's lives, and sincere Prabhupada disciples being scattered to the four directions, afraid to speak what they know, or estranged and disgruntled. Then there are the ones who knew, who tried to speak up, were brutalized or murdered, and are now reborn and trying to carry on the mission, still with the daunting task ahead to clear Srila Prabhupada's name from what the demons did to his organization, ISKCON. I suppose it is no different from what they did to Christ 2,000 years earlier. What untold abominations were stuck in the Bible and attributed to Christ. They know their art well, the snake people. The Great Sinister Movement has been around for many centuries. And now the Catholic Church is more or less their Bastille. I came home from the session and I took a shower and felt my whole uterus swelling up, and I doubled over in pain. My knees felt too weak to support me, and the pain of seeing the murder of the devotee mother and her daughter was very, very great. I curled up in my bed. The soft warmth of my babies, boys sleeping next to me brought me back to the present moment. And I was grateful to be alive. I was grateful to have love. I will end this video here. Thank you for watching. Hare Krishna.